Hey y'all, hey, welcome to another week. Thank you for joining me again. Today we're going to talk about change management, and specifically we're going to dig a little further into the ADKAR model, so stay tuned. But first, I want to make sure that we're all clear on what I'm talking about when I talk about change management. There's so many different things that we manage as leaders that sometimes change management can get a little lost in the mix. And so there's a lot of different things that we manage. One, we manage processes. And so a lot of times when we think about change management, we think about managing the new processes that get put into place, making sure that new systems are in place, making sure that new policies and procedures are in place. And we can tend to think of that as change management. But change management is really about helping the people that do the work day to day to switch their mindset over from the way that they do their job today to the way that we need them to do their jobs tomorrow. And so that is what we are talking about when we talk about change management. We are not talking about making sure we have the right systems in place. We are not talking about making sure we have the right materials in place. We are really talking about being able to connect to each and every one of our employees and make sure that they understand the change and that they get on board with moving in the direction that the organization is moving in. So since we're people, and as people, we do better when we have an outline for the thing that we need to do. ADKAR gives us that outline. ADKAR is a structured process for the people side of change. Managing the new system, managing the new process, managing the new policy is easy, but ADKAR gives us the help that we need when we are dealing with the people that are ultimately going to shape how our organizations change. So let's really talk about ADKAR and what does that acronym stand for. The first A in ADKAR stands for awareness. And awareness is really about answering the what and the why for your employee. What's the business reason why we need to make this change? Not just telling them, hey, a change is coming, but really sitting down and making sure they understand what is changing. So what process is changing, what part of their job is changing, what part of their world is changing, and why we are making that. Is it because we need to do something differently for our customers? Is it because that system is outdated and they're not updating it anymore? Is it because we're going in a different direction as a company and now because of that we need to switch the way we do that process? Make sure your employees really understand what is changing and why it is changing. Awareness is the number one resistance to change. If people don't understand what is changing and why it's changing, they are going to push back on that change. And so how do you as a leader help manage awareness? As a leader, you want to separate the how from your message when you are creating awareness and solely focus on the what and why. You want to make sure that you are communicating to people in several different ways. Have general meetings, have big meetings where everybody attends, have small meetings where it's specialized groups of people that do similar jobs, and then have individual meetings, especially with those people who the change is going to impact the most or those people that you know are going to be your biggest resistors to the change. Have one-on-one meetings with those people and solely focus on what's changing and why it's changing. You can also use emails to reinforce that message. Remember, we all learn and absorb information differently, so use different methods and make sure when you are in the awareness phase, you stick to communicating the what and why. And so when your employees can repeat back to you or paraphrase to you or say in their own words what is changing and why we need to make that change, you know that your employees are now aware of the change. And so after you've created awareness, now we're going to move on to desire. And desire can be hard for us as leaders to really manage because it's really about getting the individual, getting that person to choose to buy in. We can't force buy-in, and sometimes as leaders, we tend to think that we have more power in someone's desire than we do. Just because they come to work for us, that they get a paycheck from us, does not mean that desire for whatever change we decide to implement or whatever change is pushed down is automatic for that person. And so for us as leaders, we have to take our pride out of the situation and really sit down with our employees and get to know them and understand what's in it for them. Understand your employee, understand the job that your employee does, and then work to figure out, how does this change affect them? How is it going to make their life better that a process is going to change? And then sit down and again have one-on-one conversations with people about what's in it for them. It's not about what's in it for the company. It's not about what's in it for the team. It is, what is that person going to get from making this change? And wherever you can, you want to remove barriers. And so if we go back to our conversation about conflict management, where we talked about resolving the problem and listening, you really want to listen to the person and hear their heart so that you can see where you can remove those barriers to this person changing up front. That's going to make your job implementing the change so much easier if you take the time to ask questions of your employees about what is important to them. What's important to them? Will they get time back? Will they be able to focus on customers more, and that's where they love to focus? Will they be able to work with other people on the team, and that is where what they love to do? They love to collaborate. Is it going to give them a new skill that they can take into their future career, whether it's with the company or with another company? What is in it for that person to change? Really take the time to figure that out so that you get individual buy-in. So we've built an awareness. We've helped to foster desire. We can't really create that, but we can help foster desire. And so now we move on to knowledge. Once your employees understand what is changing, why it's changing, and what's in it for them, now you can start to give them the knowledge, the information they need to do things differently. And this is where training comes in. And so I want to caution you right here that you do not confuse knowledge with awareness. You cannot bring your employees into a training situation and use that training situation to explain the what and why to them as you show them how, because you are going to encounter resistance. There needs to be some time between telling an employee what is going to change and why it's going to change, and training them on how to actually implement that change. And you may have the opportunity to give them months of awareness where you can constantly come back and follow up and have conversations and remind them that the change is coming and answer more questions about why the change is coming. Or it may come quickly. It may come quickly where you don't have time to go back and constantly reinforce awareness, but you do need to make an attempt to have awareness and knowledge separate. Tell the people what and why it's changing. Create that desire by helping them to discover what's in it for them, and then move on to showing them how they can do it differently. Make sure that you incorporate lots of different ways to train. So we know that a lot of people don't learn by just being sat in front of a computer to watch a computer demonstrate something. A lot of people don't learn just by reading. And some people even don't learn by hands-on. So make sure that your training has a number of different ways to get that knowledge to people so that they really get a good grasp of it. This is about giving information and letting them touch and feel the new process or the new system as much as possible so that they become familiar with how to actually get the thing done. So now that we've given our employees knowledge, now it is time to strengthen their ability. And again, I don't want people to make the mistake that because you trained somebody and gave them knowledge, they now have the ability to do something. ability must be demonstrated. So knowledge does not have to be demonstrated. Knowledge is just simply having information given to you. You now have knowledge. Ability is actually putting that knowledge into practice, right? In everyday life, we would call that wisdom, right? Our children go to school and they learn about banking, and now they have knowledge about banking, but they don't really have wisdom or ability until we actually take them to the bank and have them practice opening an account, have them practice depositing money, have them practice withdrawing money, have them practice using the ATM. Once we've had them to practice those things and we see that they're proficient, now they have ability. The same thing applies in change. We tell our employees what the change is. We get their buy-in about why it's important to them. We give them information on how they're going to make the change, but now we need to give them the safe environment to practice. And so safe environment to practice means that we don't create situations where, because someone went through training, that when they start doing it and they make a mistake, that we immediately want to reprimand them. Creating safe places for them to practice. You standing there by them. You allowing them to do it in a controlled environment where there'll be no hurt, harm, or danger done to anybody. Create safe spaces for your employees to use it and practice it. This is the place where you become the coach. You encourage that person. You give feedback to that person. You give direction to that person so that they learn how to actually implement the new process, the new system in the real world and not in theory. And so this is a great place to pull out SL2 and really remember when people are learning and when they are doing, so that you can give the right balance of feedback and instruction as they practice, so that they become masters of the change. So now what? Now you know the steps to ADKAR and how they look, how they should be applied in the real life. But the question now is, can you do them out of order? And the answer to that question is no. You must go in order. People can slide back in ADKAR, but they cannot move forward unless they have mastered the step before. And so you cannot build buy-in with an employee if you have not taken the time to really ensure they understood the what and the why of the change. And you cannot move to knowledge without building desire. If they don't care about your change and they don't understand what's in it for them to change, as you train, they will tune you out. And so they'll never actually get the change. You may have put the information out there, but they will never acquire the knowledge if they don't feel like it's important. And if they don't get the knowledge, which is the information they need to know the steps to implement the change, they can never practice it successfully. They can never practice it successfully, and they can never build ability. And if they don't ever build ability, you will never see the correct behaviors that you need to see to reinforce the change and sustain the change for the long term. So make sure that you follow the steps of ADKAR in order. The time frame you spend in each step may be different, but in each and every change, you must always follow the steps in order and make sure that each individual obtains that step before you move on with that person to the next step. So I hope that helps you better understand ADKAR. If you have any questions or you have a situation that you want to work through, feel free to leave it in the comments or shoot me a message and we can talk more about how ADKAR applies to your specific situation. I will see you all later.